John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, my name is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert. I've got almost 30 years of experience in the credit industry. I've spent time at FICO, which is obviously the company behind the FICO credit scoring system, and Equifax, which is one of the 3 generally recognized credit reporting agencies in the US. All right, today we're going to talk about consumer statements. And I get this question from time to time, John, should I add a consumer statement to my credit report? All right, what is a consumer statement? A consumer statement is actually something that is straight out of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. You have the right and have had the right for over 3 decades to add a consumer statement to your credit report. The consumer statement, the amount or the length of the statement is capped at 100 words, and I think some states have a cap at 200 words. But 100 words is, for those of you who do any writing, and you know just how brief 100 words is, it's really hard to get a whole lot of language in a 100-word statement. But I always tell people, the consumer statement is Twitter before Twitter was Twitter. So it was a way that people could kind of communicate with the world by kind of being very efficient with their wording, kind of compressing a thought into a relatively few number of words. But a consumer statement, 100 words should be plenty, because normally people who add consumer statements to credit reports are trying to explain something on the report. So if they have an item on the credit report which they disagree, like a late payment or a defaulted account, or maybe an account that is a joint liability, but in the process of the divorce, your ex-spouse has been given responsibility to pay it. So these are things that you can add to your credit report and explain, hey, my spouse is supposed to pay the car loan pursuant to our divorce decree. Hey, I was late on this payment because the dog ate the bill. Or hey, I was late on this payment because I never got the statement in the mail. Obviously, those are way fewer than 100-word statements, but it would clearly explain an item on a credit report. There are some people who think, and I'm not one of them, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. There are some people who suggest that adding a consumer statement to a credit report is a bad idea, and here's the argument that they make. The argument that they make is because most consumer statements that are added to a credit report are there explaining something derogatory, that you're somehow admitting that it's accurate because you have explained it. And that's actually a position that you hear a lot from the credit repair industry. Hey, don't do anything to help validate a negative item on your credit report. And if you add a consumer statement saying, hey, this credit card account that is mine that was really late is late because I forgot to make the payment 1 month. Well, they would argue that you're now admitting that the late payment is correct because you've added some sort of supporting statement. You know, I don't know if that has any basis in the legal world, and that would take some sort of a legal interpretation as far as if that actually acknowledges the validity of an item on a credit report. I actually disagree. I actually think it's a good idea to add a consumer statement to a credit report. Even though consumer statements are not scored by credit scoring systems, meaning that your score isn't higher or lower because you've added a consumer statement, there are still some scenarios where a credit report is printed and someone actually looks at it and they can see it and read it and take it into consideration. A perfect example, mortgage. For those of you who have applied for a mortgage loan in the past, 20 years, you probably have seen that the credit report that the mortgage broker or the lender gets their hands on is this merged credit report. It's called an RMCR, Residential Mortgage Credit Report. Some people call it a mortgage tri-merge because it's the 3 credit reports merged into one tri-merge. But they get it printed out nonetheless, and you end up with this credit report that's 30 or 40 pages long, and it would include the consumer statement. And so to the extent that you have to explain something to a mortgage broker or mortgage lender, the statement will actually go a long way of doing that already for you. So I actually think it's a good idea. Now, keep in mind, the consumer statement doesn't have to stay on your credit report forever. You can remove it whenever you like. And to the extent you're explaining something that's derogatory on your credit report, like a late payment or a defaulted account, then obviously those things have a statute of limitations per the Fair Credit Reporting Act and have to be removed within a certain period of time. Most negative information can't remain on a credit report longer than 7 years, although there, of course, are some exceptions to that rule. So you definitely don't want a consumer statement on your credit report explaining a collection that is gone, or explaining a late payment that is gone, or explaining a charged off account that was deleted 2 years ago. So you want to stay on top of the fact that the consumer statement is there, and the credit reporting agencies actually do a really good job of tying the consumer statement to the negative item, and so they can actually see by looking at your credit report, hey, this late payment that the consumer is explaining is going to be deleted in 12 months. And so they can actually set up your consumer statement to also be deleted in 12 months. And so all reference to the item that you're explaining is going to be gone at the same time. There's not a guarantee that that's going to happen, so it is important that you stay on top of the consumer statement just to make sure that you verify the item. Not only is the item gone, but now this 100-word statement explaining the item is also gone. There's also a low-level myth that floats around out there that if you add a consumer statement, it's going to have an impact on your credit score. That's absolutely false, 100% false. That's what we call a myth, untrue. The consumer statement is not a scored value. You can't quantify a sentence. You can't say, let's add 10 points because of that explanation. You can't do anything like that. So to the extent that you added a consumer statement to your credit report and your score went up or went down, that's a coincidence. There's no correlation between the two things. So if you have any questions about consumer statements, drop them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day. We will talk again soon, maybe about consumer statements again.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.